Hi, Mom. Sorry about the delay. I had to run a delivery really quickly. And I was running a little late getting back. Hi. Aloha, everybody. Sorry I'm running a little late today. I just sent a message to those that I have been able to catch our readings. If you're just joining us, we have been reading a chapter every other day for Dolly Parton, My Life and Other Unfinished Business, her biography from the 90's. Usually we start at 10 a.m. Hawaii time, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 Eastern. But hi, Deborah. How's it going? But like I said, normally we're 10 Hawaii, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. But I had to run a couple errands today. We had a couple local deliveries here on the island that I totally forgot to put in the car the other day, and I had to run those out as soon as possible this morning. So, yeah, we are here. I saw something comments about the wig. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm trying to do a big wig extravaganza for the final chapter, which is coming up. But okay, so we don't want, without further delay, I'll do a quick catch up. So last chapter was chapter 13 of Dolly, My Life and Other Unfinished Business. We had a technical difficulty. For some reason, the video did not save on my Instagram Live. So I had to screen record it, and now I have to compress the video file to upload it to YouTube because for some reason it's too large when you say screen record, I guess. So that's why it hasn't been uploaded to our YouTube page. So a quick recap. Chapter 13 was Dolly's introduction into Hollywood. She got her first breakout role by Jane Fonda asking her to be in the movie 9 to 5, which I didn't know that was her first movie she ever did, but it was, and she had a great time with it. She says wonderful things about Jane Fonda, even, amazing things about Lily Tomlin. And then she got her second role in Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, which didn't go as well. At the same time, going through all of that, she had to deal with some personal heartache with friends, family, and changes within her business and managements and all of that. So it put her through a ringer. She says that was the darkest time she'd ever gone through. She went through suicidal thoughts for about 18 months and depression. And then at the very end of that chapter, she came right out of it. So let's see what happens. We are going to start with chapter 14. Feel free to prop this up, do some cleaning, do some whatever, and here we go. Hi, Katie, you made it. Perfect. Here we go. So we are going to jump right into chapter 14 of Dolly, My Life and Other Unfinished Business. I had made peace with God again. Now it was time for one of my earth angels to carry on the work of pulling me back together in a big way. Sandy Galen came to my rescue like a knight in corduroy armor. He leaves the shining to me. Everything we had talked about had come true. Everything he had promised me, or I had promised him, we had done. I was a superstar before I had let myself go. My concerts were sellouts. I had made it to the movies. I had been Country Music Entertainer of the Year. My albums went platinum. My face was everywhere. My boobs were everywhere. My name was a household word. I had nearly thrown it all away. Early in the crash, Sandy had taken me to New York to a bevy of doctors for my voice, my weight, my head. Now he planned a vacation to help me get away from it all. He made arrangements for us to go to Australia. We were on a flight to Sydney without realizing that a country music festival happened to be going on there at that time. I think the pilot mentioned that I was on the plane when he talked to the tower. At any rate, there were literally thousands of people waiting for us at the airport when we arrived. They followed us to the hotel where we had planned to stay. We couldn't even find a place to eat without causing our near riot. Some getaway. The hotel manager was very understanding. He led us through a basement into the back entrance of one of the hotel's restaurants and said that we could be served privately there. Well, before our salads arrived, a reporter did. He walked up and put a tape recorder down on the table and began asking questions. That was the last straw for Sandy. He began trying to put together an alternate trip. We learned of a little island that was very remote. Surely we would be left alone there. Remote it was. We had to take 2 different small planes and a boat to get there. When we arrived, we were amazed to see reporters and photographers from the tabloids waiting for us. Of course, they were out for the big story. Dolly whisked away on a romantic getaway by Mystery Man. Anyone who knows Sandy would know that the notion of the two of us being romantically involved is ridiculous. I am most assuredly not his type. And I don't think I am breaking any big news to say so. Sandy doesn't mind if I say that he's gay. But he would also like me to say that he's gorgeous and available, which he is. That was, granted, it was written in the 90s, so we don't know if he's still available. But if so, if any fellas out there, you can go track down Sandy Galen. He's in the entertainment industry. I'm sure he's bored right now in quarantine. Might be a little older, but hey, maybe he'll be your sugar daddy. Hey, anyways, back to the story. Sometimes I think that he's not waiting or wanting me as a woman has allowed us to be much closer than if he had been drawn to each other sexually. I've always had that problem with men, them liking me too much or vice versa. I'm like Will Rogers in that respect. I never met a man I didn't like. Men are my weakness. Men and food, you could say. The reporters were a bother. He didn't want me to have to deal with, so he chartered what we thought was a yacht to take us out to sea and away from prying eyes and tape recorders. The closest thing to a yacht on that remote island turned out to be a little houseboat like I would have at my house on the lake back in Tennessee. I don't know exactly how big it was, only that it didn't seem right to use the word big when describing it. It had a small cabin that barely had sleeping accommodations and was advertised as having a chef. The chef fit the word chef fit the man preparing the food about as well as the word yacht fit the boat. The food was literally sardines and Velveeta cheese on Ritz crackers, the kind of stuff I would have had at a hillbilly picnic back at home. Oh, we got a bunch of joiners. Do the quick intro. We are on chapter 14 of Dolly, My Life and Other Unfinished Business. We had a late delay today, so you're not missing much. We just got going, so here we go. That was fine with me, the Ritz and all that, but Sandy is used to fine cuisine. Side note, you could do 2 buns with the wig for the next book. Oh yeah, that's true. If I want to, because for those of you that are wondering what that was all about, we've chosen our next book to read. It is the late Carrie Fisher's final memoir, and I'm coming up with some ideas to do a Carrie Fisher look, just like I've done wigs for this book reading. Different every time. Anyways, back to it. Thank you for that option. That's a great idea. Still, he was game enough to make the best of it. The couple who owned and operated the boat were nice people, and they did the best they could to make us comfortable. It seemed to me, though, that we were heading a long way offshore for such a little boat. As it turned out, my fears were justified. There I was, trying to enjoy my potted meat on a cracker, when a storm began to blow up out of nowhere. The man running the boat told us that this kind of thing was common for those waters, and that the best thing to do was to ride it out where we were. Sandy and I were no sailors, so we decided to trust the man's judgment. The storm turned out to be much worse than our captain had imagined. Winds that must have been near hurricane forces whipped the seas into a frenzy. The couple busied themselves with trying to handle the boat and keep it afloat, and I'm glad they did. But that left Sandy and me to fend for ourselves. Of the two of us, Sandy is the bigger sissy. He's always more afraid he's going to break a nail than I am. He had no idea what to do. Soon it became clear to both of us what to do. Hold on for dear life. Waves began washing over the rear deck, and I started to get really scared. It takes a lot for me to take my shoes off, but this is one time I did. I could forego the 5-inch heels. I took them off, and it wasn't long before my little slings, as I always called them, got slung. They went overboard with a wave, and all I could do was watch them go. The next wave almost got me. A wall of water came crashing down over the boat, slapping it around like a toy. I slid across the deck, whoosh, completely out of control. I felt a rush of cold water surround me as the sea swept me in. I managed to grab a railing and stay with the boat, but my whole body was dangling overboard. I could think of nothing but the shark stories the captain had told us earlier. Just as I began to lose my grip, I became aware of Sandy making his way across the pitching deck. Reaching his hand out for me, he somehow got a hold of me and dragged me back onto the boat and into the little cabin. It felt good to be out of the water, but by all appearances, the shark's dinner had only been delayed. There seemed to be no way our little boat could ride out this storm. You never know how you're going to respond to a situation like that until you're in it. The way Sandy and I chose to deal with it is still a source of wonder to me. We held a brief high-level discussion and then unanimously decided that we were doomed. Sandy's gutsy, "They can kill us, but they won't eat us," didn't apply to sharks. Then we simply and calmly lay down on a little bunk, held hands, and waited to die. I thought to myself, if this don't beat all, here I am, a country girl from East Tennessee about to die somewhere off the coast of Australia, side by side with a gay man from New York. We lay there and prayed silently, Sandy in his way and I in mine. But God must have decided he wasn't through with us. The storm broke, the sea calmed, and the sun began to peek out of a little hole in the clouds. We had to stay anchored that night to keep from going through the same storm on the way in. But we were safe. I think that experience created in both of us the feeling that if we can survive that, we can survive anything. As I look back at it, it is altogether fitting that Sandy was the one I shared it with. I know we will always be there to pull each other out of the storm in life, and that gives me great comfort. Carl is not the least bit threatened by my relationship with Sandy. In fact, he is very grateful for it because he knows I am loved and taken care of when I am not with him. Judy had bounced back too. She had dumped the dude that was causing her pain and was back at my side. Her old self again. That felt good. Just as a quick catch-up, if you're new, because I see some new faces and viewers or listeners, Judy is her very dear friend from high school. She also went through a very hard time in the last chapter, which caused Dolly Parton to go through a hard time and caused a depression that Dolly Parton's coming out with and almost dying on a boat. Here we are. Okay. That felt good. Of course, I've always had the steadfast Don Warden. That must be weird. Okay, yeah, of course, I always had the steadfast Don Warden, so my business family was healthy and together, and I was itching to get back to work. Sandy and I both thought I should do another movie right away. 9 to 5 had been a pleasurable, enchanted experience. Best Little Whorehouse had been a miserable, spirit-numbing ordeal. I guess in my mind, the two sort of canceled each other out. This left me feeling that movies were definitely something I wanted to do. If I could control enough elements of the film to prevent the whorehouse thing from repeating itself. While I seem to be down on the whole experience, I should point out, as Burt Reynolds always did to me, that Whorehouse was a financial success. Also, while I had been a kind of unspoiled curiosity in 9 to 5, Whorehouse had elevated me. If you're wondering why I keep yelling Whorehouse, that is because Dolly Parton in our last chapter was in that movie, Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, with Burt Reynolds, her second film, and she only refers to it as The Whorehouse. You should watch it. It's an entertaining movie. Also, while I had been kind of unspoiled curiosity in 9 to 5, Whorehouse had elevated me, at least temporarily, to the status of full-fledged movie star. To anyone who keeps up with the ins and outs of the movie business, it is probably not necessary to point out that my star status was temporary. Today's ins today's ins are tomorrow's outs. The film industry might not have written, "What have you done lately?" but they darn sure the ones that cut the hit single. There I was with this newly acquired movie stardom I didn't even know I had. Maybe that's why I was willing to gamble it, and a lot of money, on a new venture. Even if it had been fully aware of the seriousness of that dice roll, I probably would have done it anyway. I have always believed in myself, and that is something no fickle movie business could ever change. Hindsight, as we all know, is 20/20. And if I had to do it all over again, I would not wager so heavily on Rhinestone. You would have thought with a hind as big as mine, or with a hind as big as mine, it would have been easier to see. I guess the public didn't want to see Sylvester Stallone do a comedy. Or maybe they didn't want to see me do Sylvester Stallone. One thing is certain. They didn't want to see Rhinestone. I've never seen it. I didn't even know it existed. Which explains that... Oh, thank you. Thank you. Fun new wig today. Which explains I didn't want to show you all this picture because I was confused by it the other day. But there's a picture of Sylvester Stallone and her. And that explains that we just hadn't gotten to that part of the book. But that was them, I guess, when they were filming that movie. Oh, and there's Burt Reynolds and her in a publicity shot. Okay, so back to it. Oh, God, I missed my spot. There we are. Okay. No matter how big a financial disaster Rhinestone was, it was not all bad for me. Sylvester Stallone made me laugh at a time when I really needed it. I have found no therapy more effective than laughing. Although, in this case, there were probably less expensive ways to get it. I should point out that Sly Stallone is certifiably crazy. But he was a good kind of crazy, the kind I needed at that point in my life. After all, movies may come and go, but life is something we buy a ticket to every day, and it doesn't come with popcorn. To me, Stallone was better than popcorn. He was full of life and very healthy to me to be around. Lord, I've made him sound like a laxative. One other good thing about Rhinestone was the music. I wrote for it, which I will always be proud of. I still think that those songs are some of the best country songs nobody ever heard. I suppose overall it was a humbling experience. I've always wanted to play, on a side note, I've always wanted to play some of Dolly Parton's songs or just different things in here. Ah, Chandler, how's it going? You're just joining us as we're reading Dolly Parton's Biography from the 90's, something we do every other day. So as I was saying, I've always wanted to play a few like intro songs for y'all when this reading happens, but there are legal issues that even though the world is falling apart, I feel like they may still come at me. I just learned recently, our good friends at Fish's Eddie, Julie, she created a Dolly Parton product, a mug, that I think we actually still have at our Hermosa Beach location. Just not on our website, but I should put it up there because it's a great mug. But anyways, Dolly's people reached out to Julie of Fish's Eddie, who had just launched a new collection of housewares, and Dolly's people did not like it. They said that Dolly didn't like the artwork that someone did of her, so they had to remove it from the line. So we have a pillow that I'll have on our website later tonight for you to see. It's a Dolly Parton pillow, and then the mug is on our Hermosa store. But and another quick side note of that, if you go to Fish's Eddie Instagram, the other day they were doing a helping with the New York City Food Bank because they are really strapped right now with everything going on over there. And if you donated, I think it was like $100, she was going to send you a mug or one of the trays, the serving trays from the Dolly Parton collection that is discontinued. So it's kind of like a a collector's item. So back to it. The reason why I don't play the music is because I think you're only limited X amount of seconds to sample people's music without paying for it, and Instagram takes things down. So anyways, I'm rambling. Let's get back to the book. Okay, chapter 14. If you caught that rambling, we are in the middle of reading chapter 14. Dolly, My Life and Other Unfinished Business. Today's wig of choice is pigtails on the side from our rainbow collection. Here we go. I suppose overall it was a humbling experience. I take nothing for granted. I'm humbled every day by one thing or another. If you get too big for your britches, you're in for a fall. The Bible says, he who exalts himself shall be humbled, but he who humbles himself shall be exalted. One night during the making of the film, we were shooting an alley. There was garbage everywhere and big rats running around. We were working all night and it was that New York kind of damp cold. I noticed a man lying there next to some garbage and he was shivering. We had a big heater and blankets on the set, so I thought I'd go back there and get warm and put a heavy shawl I was wearing around this poor man. I didn't realize anybody was watching. Just as I wrapped that shawl around the man, Stallone walked up and jerked it away. "Don't you put that good shawl over that scum," he said. He could have made something of himself. We did. Well, you could have knocked me over with an angel feather. I couldn't believe what a man I considered a friend was saying. I grabbed that shawl back from him and I wrapped it back around the man. Then I stood right up in Sly's face and I said, "Hey, look, that could have been you, you ungrateful son of a bitch. Except by the grace of God, who knows? It could have been an angel sent us somehow to show you what an ass you really are. At least he's one of God's creatures, and that's good enough for me." Some of the people on the crew just stood back in amazement. They had never seen anybody talk to Stallone that way. He apparently had never heard anybody talk to him like that either. He looked at me, kind of hurt and embarrassed, and said, "You're right." The next morning, I found my shoal back in my trailer. Someone told me that Sly had taken what I said to heart and had gone back that night and given the man a blanket and some money. I know that Sylvester is a good person down deep. He's still a dear friend of mine. I don't take all the credit for setting him straight about that one instance. It was a feisty little hillbilly woman he saw in his face that night, but God was the one who really spoke to him. Perhaps the most significant thing about the movie, or the Dolly who was involved in the making of the movie, was that it finally made me get my weight down. I guess you could say I lost my ass in 2 ways. The image of poor Burt Reynolds having to carry me across the screen was still fresh in my mind. As I am fond of saying, if I tried to haul ass, I would have to take 2 trips. It seemed clear to me that unless we planned to sell billboards advertising on my voluminous butt, perhaps I should try to whittle away at it. The thought of sharing the screen with someone as body-conscious as Sylvester Stallone made me really determined to get my weight down. I tried every diet in the book. I tried some that weren't in the book. I tried eating the book. It tasted better than most of the diets. I tried the Scarsdale diet and the Stillman water diet. You remember that one? Where you run weight off trying to get to the bathroom? I don't think I ever heard of that one. So hopefully some of our viewers do. I tried OptiFast, Juice Fast, and Water Fast. I even took those shots that I think were made from cow pee. I endured every form of torture anybody with a white coat and clipboard could devise for a fat girl who really liked fried pork chops. One night, while I was on some kind of liquid protein diet made from bone marrow or something equally appetizing, I was with a group of friends at a Howard Johnson, and some of them were having fried clams. God, that sounds terrible. Oh God, that sounds terrible. I have to get that image out of my head. Ugh. I'll never forget sitting there with all that glorious fried fat feeling my nostrils and feeling completely left out. I went home and wrote one of my biggest hits, 2 Doors Down. I also went off my diet and had some fried clams. Oh God, that's disgusting. There were times when I thought of chucking it all in. Damn the movie, I would say. I'm just gonna eat everything and go ahead and weigh 500 pounds and have to be buried in a piano case. Luckily, a few donuts later, that thought would pass, and I would be back to the goal at hand. I remember something in a book I read called The Gentle Eating. I have to read it very gently. It's a book called Gentle Eating. The author said, you should pretend the angels are eating with you and that you want to save some for them. I love that idea because I love angels. I have to admit, though, there were times I would slap those angels out of the way and have their part too. A true hog will do that. Finally, I arrived at the Dolly diet. The concept was so simple. I don't know how it took me so long to think of it. Here's how it works. I go ahead and eat all those things I have a craving for. I had thought of that part before. It was the next part that made it different. The trick is, I eat them in very small quantities. The only good diet is one that works for you personally and one that you can stay with. This was the compromise movie star Dolly was able to make with Pig Dolly. That has kept them both reasonably satisfied. People who go out to dinner with me on a regular basis have learned not to order for themselves because they know I am likely to order 2 or 3 entrees and then just have a bite or 2 of each one, leaving the rest up for grabs. None of this is to say that I would recommend the Dolly diet to anybody else. To the contrary, I recommend that you go on the Your Name Here diet. So insert your name, the Andrew diet, the whatever diet. Find one that works for you, even if you have to make it up. As long as it's not nutritionally detrimental to your health and you can afford it. I say go for it. The inescapable truth about any diet is if you're going to lose weight, you're going to have to eat less food. I hear people all the time complaining that I have a slow metabolism or I'm just big boned. If you could see some of the people these complaints come from, you'd know that nobody's bones are that big. I have never known a fat person who didn't eat a lot. They may do it when nobody's looking, but somehow, somewhere, they are putting away some groceries. Of course, exercise is the other necessary element in this equation, but the hardest exercise for most of us is the one where we push our chair back from the dinner table. One other hint I'd like to pass on has to do with chewing. Our taste buds are only in our mouths after all, and we don't really taste the food when we swallow it. You can get a lot of satisfaction from the taste of things you love by chew and chew and chew and chew and chew Chattanooga. Chew, chew, chewing, and then not swallowing. I don't know where Dolly's going with this, but we got to keep up with this because this chapter is all about some crazy stuff. Okay. Wait. Oh, I should have kept reading because here it goes. Okay, so let's go back to that again. A lot of things you love by just chew, 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 and chew, and chew, and Chattanooga, chew, and chew, and chewing, and then not swallowing. Wait a minute. You're thinking, if I don't swallow, won't I have to spit the food out? You're right. That's disgusting, you say? That may be, but what's more disgusting? Spitting it out, food, or being a lard ass? I'm not suggesting for a moment that you spit up food. That's very dangerous, but it doesn't hurt to spit it out. I know for a fact that a lot of stars and models chew and spit. The first time somebody told me that, I was so shocked. I dropped a whole styrofoam cup of chewed donuts. Oh, gross. And so, with the success of my diet, I was not as a big a star. After Rhinestone, physically or financially, all in all, while the making of the film was not unpleasant for me, it would be some time before I would make another one. One side effect of my having lost weight and my being associated with Sylvester Stallone was that the tabloids took an even greater interest in me than ever. Of course, there were rumors of my romantic involvement with Sly and the incredible stories of how I had lost the weight. But I was not really prepared for the fascination some people had with almost every aspect of my private life. When you are the subject of some kind of outlandish story, you first read it with amusement. You find yourself wondering how the writers, if you can call them that, could make up such a tale and who they expect to believe it. Then reality hits you in the face and you stop laughing. No matter how crazy a story is, there are people who will believe it. I will say the most of the stories in the tabloids, at least the ones I have any knowledge of, have some thread of truth to them, no matter how frayed that thread might be. I have sometimes been called the Queen of the Tabloids, which is a title I don't particularly mind having. I have to admit, there's a part of me that likes the idea of being the queen of just about anything. I have come to accept most of the outrageous crap with a sense of humor. I also have the business sense to know that that it is not necessarily a bad thing to have my face plastered all over the supermarket checkout when I have a new album coming out. It is only when the stories hurt my family or others close to me that I get upset. There was a time when I learned with amusement and mild horror that some of the stories were, in fact, coming from within my family. Within my family is not exactly accurate. The stories were coming from an aunt I hardly know and hadn't seen since she left the Smokies when I was very young. I can't say that I was very aware of her until the stories she was selling to the tabloids began to make me take a notice. Family members who actually knew her had told me, everybody knows she's crazy. Apparently, tabloid editors are not a part of everybody. Although she might have been crazy, she was aware enough to know that her relationship to me could be turned into money. She simply made up stories about me. For one thing, she went to one of the scandal sheets and professed to know the true story of Jolene, the redhead who almost took Dolly's man. That whole story, as you know by now, was something I had made up for the sake of the song. She told it as if she had been there and witnessed the whole sordid affair. The only thing truly sordid was that there was some lonely woman who didn't know me telling her side of things that had never happened. I do not profess to be a perfect person. Nobody is. The family members who are actually close to me could tell much better stories if they were inclined to do so. This stuff was just crap. For a while, she had a pretty lucrative career making up stories about me that she had absolutely no way of knowing about. The complete absence of the truth didn't stop her or the tabloids. The bogus stories kept on coming for a while. The misguided woman who I will simply refer to as the Squealer was not satisfied with money. She wanted to be a star in her own right. Or should I say, own wrong. She tried to get on TV and wrote letters to Joan Rivers, Oprah, and Phil Donahue. Fortunately, I know those people, so they would call or write me or simply have the squealer's letter forwarded to me. I often thought about confronting her myself, but was advised against it by other family members. Through little bits of information, I finally began to put a picture of this woman and what she had against me, at least in her mind, a word I used with some reservation. During the filming of Rhinestone, I had a big to-do at my house and invited some of the people from up home to meet the Hollywood types and vice versa. Apparently, the squealer was hurt that she was not invited to rub elbows with Stallone and the like, and she undertook her smear campaign out of spite. Maybe I should have dealt with the squealer more harshly. I have difficulty doing things like that. Having scratched and clawed my way to fame and fortune, I can understand that drive. Unlike some people, though, I always wanted to do it in my own right. I can imagine the frustration of being on the edge of something big. It's as if you are dying for lack of sunlight and then have the sun come just up to the edge of your toes, leaving you in the shadows. As bizarre as the story of the squealer is, it is still easier to laugh at her shenanigans than at the effort of some other people to cash in on their proximity to the queen of the tabloids. There was one time when I was deeply hurt, not by the stories that came out, but by the betrayal. I had become friends with certain people at a time when I really needed friends, and had taken them into my confidence. There were obviously. That's a very interestingly spelled word. Have you ever paid attention to the word obviously? Obviously. Obviously. Maybe I say it wrong, but the B is silent. I'm sure it is for everybody else. Maybe? Obviously. Sorry, just a side note from the book. It's a word I have to read. So hold on. Okay. Obviously, I got to go back to reading. I don't want to drive y'all away with my tangents of craziness. Okay. Here we go. They were obviously in need as well, and I did everything I could to help them. Really opened my heart and my pocketbook to them. That's why it was so devastating when they tried to blackmail me. Yes, I said blackmail. I know that it is a serious word, but believe me, these people were serious. Excuse me. After all, they had gotten close enough to me to feel they had something to sell. They approached Sandy Galen and demanded money for pictures, videos, and tapes containing damaging information concerning me. Without telling me, he arranged to meet them and did in fact give them money. The big, dangerous video and pictures turned out to be nothing more than me visiting and having dinner at their house, and the tapes were of me talking on their answering machines. There's always somebody with a story or a scheme once you become famous. Sometimes it's a burden to be a star or even be related to one. People might assume that my having become a star would open doors for the rest of my family, but I am not sure it works that way. No matter how much talent they have in their own right, people are bound to say, of course, they got that part of that or that record deal. She's a Dolly's sister or he's Dolly's brother. My sister Stella has her own style of singing that is very special to her and has nothing to do with me. She has had a lot of well-deserved success and deserves to be known as Stella Parton. Period. End of sentence. The second man to walk on the moon left footprints every bit as deep as Neil Armstrong's, and yet, how many of us know his name? Sometimes I get to thinking about my success and the imprint that it's had on my family. It's been a blessing and a curse to them. They've had to live in the shadows of a song. As my sister Willa Dean's book title suggests, I am certainly not the first or the most talented person in my family. I just happen to be the first to become famous. Just like I was the first to graduate high school, but I am not the only one with a diploma. Music and writing are a big part of my family. This tradition goes way back through several generations. Within my immediate family, my sister Willa Dean is a wonderful poet. She has had several of her works published, such as Denim, Lace, and Bandanas. And in my completely unbiased opinion, I recommend all of it highly. Willa Dean writes some of the sweetest and purest things I've ever read. She has been writing stories since we were very young and probably would have been a popular, well-established writer by now, had I not gotten in the way. She loves to write fiction, but when the publishers discovered that she was my sister, they insisted that her first story be about us. The Dolly Parton name would help her sell books. Well, I'm sure that In the Shadows of a Song was a hard book for Willa Dean to write. She tried to be as true as possible in her presentation of the family, and she wanted to present me properly and truthfully too. It was a hard job, and she did it very well. It is definitely first on the list of suggested reading material. She did a lot of historical research and that I was too lazy to do for this book. So I'm not only proud of her, but I'm grateful too. Maybe that's the book we should read next. I don't have a copy, but maybe we should do that after we do the Carrie Fisher one, actually, because maybe I can access a copy by then. I'll keep you posted. We refer to many of the same things, but a lot, of course, differ in a place or two. This is only because our memory serves us differently. It's a wonder we have a memory at all. Sometimes I think I have CRN disease. I think that stands for can't remember nothing, but I forgot. I believe Willa Dean has the potential to be successful at anything she writes. She could write best-selling books, plays, movies, or even a hit TV series if she were so inclined, and I hope someday to be able to produce some of her work. Willa Dean has been like a second mother to all of us. She's the dearest a friend a person could have, and she is always there for us. Thank you, Willa Dean. We all love you. Next in my order of arrival is my brother David. He's not like a dad in his demeanor. He's a very quiet, intelligent man. He joins in on sing-alongs, but of all the boys, he is the least interested in music. David is great with numbers and organization. He has played an important part with a major construction firm for many years. He's wonderful with people, but he's good with roosters too. His passion is raising and selling gamecocks, and he can't wait to retire to do more of it. My brother David is well liked and respected by everybody, especially by me. And in turn, he has always been supportive of my dreams. He loves the songs I write and sing, and it warms my heart to know his pickup is full of my cassettes. Then there's Denver. Denver and I have a very unusual but special relationship. We were very close in age when we were growing up. Of course, now he's a lot older than I am. Just kidding, Denver. As you know, we were a troublesome pair, but I believe that's what has made us even closer now that we're adults. Denver probably has the best voice of all of the boys, but he's just too shy to play his guitar or sing in front of anybody, even family. A few beers seem to help him tremendously, though. He dons his best singing up on the old mountain road, hanging out with my brothers and cousins, drinking a little moonshine. He'll start singing gospel songs and probably preaching again. And it seems he just won't quit till the seas dry up or till he does. Don't get me wrong, Denver is a hard worker. He sings hard but works even harder running a farm. He also carves beautiful things out of wood. It's almost a shame we don't fight anymore because now I could probably whip his butt. My brother Bobby is not that interested in music, but he's one of the most creative members of our family. He's a talented developer, contractor, and a builder. He's done wonderful work for me at the old Tennessee Mountain home and at Dollywood. He may not be musical, but he has certainly been instrumental in many of the business affairs. He also works on the producing end of a lot of my TV specials and other events that we do in East Tennessee. My sister Stella also has a business smarts, along with exceptional talent. She's one of the hardest working women I have ever met. She's been in show business just about as long as I have. She started out in gospel music, but has done something from country music to Broadway shows. She's made some hit records and now has a very large following worldwide. Stella is always going on the road somewhere and making a good living at it. She starred in Pump Boys and Dinettes, Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, and Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, Seven Brides for Seven Sisters, and a lot of other traveling stage shows. She's a wonderful entertainer, and they especially seem to love her abroad, and I'm one broad who especially loves her. Stella has always been helpful to me. She is also a wonderful songwriter. She uses her brilliant business sense to help organize and run my publishing company, and she has also been involved in many of the productions we do in Nashville and at Dollywood. And Stella has her own business in Pigeon Forge called Stella Parton's Best Little Hat House in the Smokies. It has wonderful coffees and teas, and it's also a great place to find country music and Smoky Mountain memorabilia. And if that's not enough, she's also published her own cookbook called Really Cookin'. I told you, Stella works hard. Unfortunately, I sometimes feel like I've only been a hindrance to her. When someone else is hogging the spotlight, it's hard to get people to notice you long enough to give you a chance, even if you deserve it. And nobody deserves it like Stella. Cassie is the only one of us girls who is not at all interested in writing, singing, or performing. She never even likes singing in church. She's a good singer, but she's painfully shy. We nearly had to hog tie her to get to sing in our Pig Latin group. If you don't remember that part, that was, I want to say chapter 3 or 4, so hit up our YouTube and you'll be able to catch up on the Pig Latin music group. It was very entertaining. And she gets especially nervous in front of the camera. She has to take a Valium to sing on TV specials with us. Cassie has a great sense of humor that I take to the bone. We have always been very close. She was the first one of the kids to come live with Carl and me. She's more like a daughter than a sister, and I feel like the fairy godmother to her kids. Cassie manages all of my properties in the South and keeps my personal and domestic life in great order. She is very smart and a hard worker. I call her Cat, she calls me Sarge. But if I could ever change places with anybody, I would want to be Cassie. Larry, who you'll recall was to be my baby, but died after only a few hours of life, remains very strongly in all of our minds. And I think of him every year on July 5th, his birthday. And then if you recall, it's sad, but there was a photo back in the day. They took pictures of deceased people. That was a photo of Larry. Sorry, don't bring it down, or if that's sensitive. But that was in there. So Larry. Then comes Randy, yet another talented singer and a songwriter. And I'm not the only one who thinks so. Randy has received many awards for his work. He has a great ear for songs. And I've been lucky to have him help me pick out music for my albums. He's also got a good nose for business and has become an established publisher. He has published his own songs as well as those written by other family members. And he couldn't get away with not performing at Dollywood. In my completely objective opinion, he has the best show at the park. Randy was on RCA Records for a while and now is recording with a new group that he organized. I think they have a great shot at big time, and Randy has all the talent to make it happen and keep it going. And above all this, he's a fine man. Floyd is one half of the twins. Gosh, I forgot there's so many people in her family. We're keeping on going. Floyd is one half of the twins who arrived next. Even if he is my brother, I happen to think Floyd is one of the greatest writers and singers today. He wrote Rockin' Years, which became a #1 hit for Ricky Van Shelton and me. I've always believed that he could be a star also. Floyd is the baby boy, and he's special to all of us in many ways, especially Mama. Frida is the other half of the twin arrangement. You will never meet anyone so gifted in your life. I marvel at the songs she writes. They are filled with fire and passion. My writing's Copy and water sip time. Okay. Okay. Writing songs. I marvel at the songs she writes. They are filled with fire and passion. My writing pales in comparison to hers. She's got the best voice of all of us and has a magical charisma on stage. She performed for years before a back injury sidelined her for a while. She's still on the mend, but I know she's got what it takes. She knows that I'm her biggest fan. In the tradition of saving the best for last, now comes Rachel. You've never seen such a beauty and sweetness and warmth. Hers is an angelic voice, too beautiful to believe, and her lyrics are true poetry. She's now recording with the group that Randy is a part of. Rachel loves everybody and somebody loves Rachel. And when other family members don't get along, Rachel is the one to fix it. She's our baby. The one we all hold sacred and special. I've been closer to Rachel and Cassie than I have the other kids because they live near me in Nashville. We stay more involved with their families. Their husbands, Larry Sieber and Richard Dennison, are like my son-in-laws, and their kids, Rebecca, Brian, and Hannah, are like real grandchildren. So are the rest of my nieces and nephews. Mitchell, Donna, Dina, Tim, Clint, Daniel, Chris, Jennifer, Jada, Tever, and Heidi. I have to thank them for adding so much joy to my life. So let's go back and count that. That is the end of chapter 14. But let's go back and count how many siblings that is. Okay, so we have... Okay, immediate relatives. We have Willa Dean. There's one. We have David. Then we have Denver. Then we have Bobby. That's 4. Stella's 5. Cassie is 6. Larry is 7. But Larry's the one who passed away, so we'll still count him. So there's 7. There's Randy, who's 8. Floyd is 9. Frida's 10. And Rachel's 11. Dolly Parton, if I counted right, has 11 siblings. And then you count her, and there's 12 kids in that family. And then if you take the one out because it passed away in infancy, we have 11. But either way, there are 12 members, children in that family that have been born. That is crazy. I mean, and they ain't even Mormon. Let's be honest. They're just Southern. Sorry, I just had to make that joke. No offense to anybody. Yeah, so that concludes chapter 14 of today's reading of Dolly, My Life, and Other Unfinished Business. I'll flip it around like always so you can see Dolly Parton from the 90s. Look at that backlighting. I just admire that backlighting. Okay, so if you are trying to watch all of these videos, don't forget you can go to youtube.com and then you can go have /Curious Workshop. I'm going to turn that around. So, turning the monitor around. You can go to this, YouTube, or don't worry about those numbers. YouTube.com /Curious Workshop, and that's SHOP. So, youtube.com /CuriouSWorkShop. I will be getting last chapter and chapter 14 up. So, frame that sign. You mean frame this? Is that what you're talking about? If so, I need to just make a post of that. Maybe I'll make a screenshot of this. I did last time, so I'll just repost it. But yeah, if that's what you're referring to, Katie. Yeah, so let's see. Oh, perfect. That is what she was talking about. I think there's a delay on what you're hearing and what I'm seeing. So sometimes it's not as quick to catch up, so I apologize. Were there any other pictures that we should go over? Oh, okay. There is handsome man Sandy Galen and Barbara Streisand and Dolly. That's the manager of hers. It's not very focused on that. And then you have Oprah. Remember those days of Oprah? You're right up my nose. Oprah and Dolly. And then there's Miss Piggy and Dolly. They kind of look alike. Not the piggy part, but just the hair and all that. There's Dolly Parton at her home, her Tennessee mountain home. And then me at a Dollywood function down there. So that's Dolly Parton at a Dollywood function. Okay, so I think that about covers that. We had chapter 14 today. We will, so today's Friday, so come back Sunday. We'll be on time, 10 a.m. I won't have to run a couple quick morning errands. We have big announcements soon to come. Big announcements. It's all good. Don't worry. No one's panicked. No one's dying. No one's, we're all healthy. We're all happy. So come back Sunday. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to share. Mother's Day is coming. You can hit up our online store, curiousworkshop.com and find all of our Mother's Day cards that you could actually just order a card and leave us a note in the comments what to write, and we'll put it in the card and we'll mail it off to your mothers, your grandmothers, your aunts, whoever, someone that deserves a Mother's Day card. Those will all be online this weekend. We have a few right now, but not all of them. So, yes, on that note, have a good Friday. Y'all, see you on Sunday. Bye.